We're down in the valley, and there's a lot of clay in our soils here. So we're in a cast-in-place foundation, and let's go ahead and illustrate what we're in so that we can start from the beginning. Cast-in-place foundation is also known as poured concrete, and it's a recipe. You can see where the one truck poured out, then the next truck poured out, so that's how the house was made. And when they make a house, and here's a real good illustration of as the trucks pour out. So the foundation itself is the walls and the footing. And what we've seen so far from the inside is we have a very strong foundation. We have a good foundation. So by no means are we trying to throw rocks at the foundation. What we're going to throw rocks at is the possible, the fact that when I looked at, there's no reason for me to peel this open, but I've already looked in there and we have a little 3-inch drain tile pipe coming into it. So that means it's builder grade drain tile. That means the drain tile was just laid in the rock or on the mud. So there's no geotextile around it, and we'll be able to prove that by opening a small hole in this room if we need to do that, just to prove it. It's not a hard thing to do. To identify, this is kind of like having a heart and veins going around the perimeter on the inside and on the outside. Well, the outside ones go nowhere, so that's why the interior drain tile system is so important. The drain tile system consists of that lid, the basin bucket, the pump, the check valve, the water that moves up, the discharge pipe, and then it should be going out and away from the house. So how it's collected is the drain tile pipe, and it's a black pipe that's running around the perimeter on the inside. The rock around it is the filter that really does the job, as well as the fabric that would be in the trench around it. So that's what protects it from silts and sands and smalls. The river rock already has the edges off of it, so the water that's being filtered works forever. So not throwing any rocks at the house. It's of this age house, that's what you're going to expect. When you have control joints in the floor, which is what these are, these were small wires that were pulled out of the floors, and you have these nice, perfect, straight cracks. That controls the shrinkage of the concrete. Again, concrete's a recipe. It has water in it. All these solids, you're filling something up to the top, well, the water vapors off. So that's why we have to control these. As we move our way into the finished part of the basement, we start to see spots that have been identified as wet right after the rains. It's really hard to control the cracks in these areas, and our main beam's right here. So this would be in a perfect place where we would have floor cracks. And one very well could be running through here. So as this water is being collected in the drain tile around the perimeter, then suddenly it can't, what happens? It has to occupy space. So it finds all the places that the clay dried and shrunk. And after it's shrunk, that space then is occupied by air. Hard rains come, ground saturated, up comes the clay with the water, leaving the residue. Now this is 28 years of talking about it. We won't know until we open the floor up, but I cannot see this as random places where a dog has went to the bathroom, especially when it's the color that it is and where it's at. So to be a good steward, first thing you're going to have to do is get the carpet up, and let's look at the floor real well, because by putting in new drainage around the perimeter, we can collect the water coming around the perimeter. We want to make sure downspouts are away, but if there is something coming up, we'll know pretty quickly once we start opening the floor. And I really doubt that based on where we're at. I think this is a very big clay issue. Now, this being the front of the house, this being the rear of this room, we want to save. If there's any way, I mean, the carpet's got to come up, it is what it is, but this room is pretty tight. Flooring looks good. So unless I open the floor up and we just find, some terrible, terrible water situation, we're going to come up with a way to get around it to where we have a backup pump on the other side of the basement. I don't have to march the water all the way around. It would be good for the house to have that anyway. So next video or pictures will be outside that will go with this, and we'll send this with an estimate. Thank you.